As we say the Pledge of Allegiance, afterwards we're going to take a moment of silence. As you've noticed, the City of Rock Springs displays the flag of Ukraine here tonight in our council chambers, and in support of the Ukrainian people who have been attacked without provocation. We're but a small town here in Wyoming, but we are also the home of 56 nationalities. And we stand in support of Ukraine and pray that this attack on innocent people will cease. And there's no place in this world for this type of atrocity. So after the pledge, moment of silence, if you would. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. Matt, start us off with a roll call.
Councillor Halter.
Here.
Batolo.
Here.
Savage.
Here.
West.
Here.
Hickerson.
Here.
Zadi.
Here.
Demas.
Here.
Robinson.
Here.
Maricomo.
Here, Councilor's first order of business, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the special city council meeting of February 16, 2022, and the city council meeting minutes of March 1st, 2022.
So moved.
We do have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, this is going to move us right into the presentations and proclamations section of our agenda. And item number one, we have Sarah O'Keefe here with TurnCorp to give us a presentation on the specific purpose tax initiative and what the plan may be. There she is. Can you hear us?
Oh, we can't hear her.
Oh, hold on. We can barely hear you. We're going to see if we can adjust. Try now. How's that?
Okay, can you guys hear me now? Nope.
Nope. We can barely hear you. Do you know sign language? How about now?
No.
We're not getting the sound. Hold on, we have an IT person getting ready to do some magic, hopefully. You good? Sarah, try now, maybe.
Nope.
It is not. Maybe we should add another project on specific purpose tax, another rebuild of our council chambers audio video system. Mike sounds good.
Is she muted?
No, she's next to the speaker, wherever that is.
David, what you gonna do, bud? This is your calling.
We might have turned her off.
Uh-oh, she's lost signal to her.
Uh-oh. Oh, yeah, maybe call a cell phone. We'll put it on the microphone if that'll work.
A phone number in the invite.
Huh. Uh-oh.
I just, Your Honor, I just got a message from Commissioner Shane Phil. She's gonna ask to call me, so I'm gonna get a call again. Throw it on.
Okay, can you hear us now?
Oh. We're gonna get a lot of cell phones going, and we're gonna get the reverberation.
Hear us, Sarah? Your
Hey,
microphone's muted.
I thought you were here for the chickens.
Got a spare minute or two? Maybe you could do some IT work for it?
My video.
Yeah, and the phone's muted too.
Wonder why we're losing sound. Maybe we should log off and try to relog back in.
Yeah, that's not very. You're muted still.
Yeah, I was getting feedback, so I muted again. I don't think I think me having no video and calling in is gonna give a lot of feedback.
Yeah, I think so too.
Do we have Commissioner? Wonder if her audio is okay. You guys probably have a.
Can you hear me now? All right, give me just a second here. Give it a shot now.
Okay, how's this? I'm getting an echo, but hopefully you're not.
What's that? Sarah, I think it might be best if you just go through your presentation because you may answer questions that we have. So we'll let you do it first, and then we'll wait for questions afterwards.
Perfect, that sounds good. Communications and community engagement around this potential specific tax initiative. So looking at this week, we received the list of projects and totals yesterday and have been working to organize all of those. You all will be seeing those from your representative, Councilman Robinson. And so if you haven't already, you'll be getting that list. We wanted to share it with all of you first, and then we'll be sharing it with the public. And there'll be a couple ways that happens. It'll be on the website, which actually, let me flip over to this. If you all haven't seen this yet, we created a landing page on the county's website just because we needed a website to house all the information related to this initiative. And so we launched this about a month ago, I want to say, and we're updating it as often as we have new information to present. So I imagine the list of projects will go up here for the public to see. And when we launch the survey, that will go up here as well. So going back to this schedule, this week we are hoping to get the community survey open. Now that we have the list of projects, we need to develop a couple of financial scenarios, and Alan Matzlos will be helping with that. So as soon as we have that, we'll get the survey finished, completed, and launched. We will also send out a press release with the details on how the public can participate in that. We'll leave it open for a couple of weeks, ideally through the end of the month, but longer if we need to. So if it takes a couple extra days to get it all, complete with the list of projects, we will leave it open because it's more important that we get a good response from the community than we do close it because we're trying to get it done by the end of the month. So we'll just keep an eye on that. So looking at the week of March 21st, it's really about promoting that survey. We'll be developing some content and sharing it with all of the different jurisdictions and other organizations who are hoping to be part of this. We'll develop content that they can share out with their networks and groups. I know, some jurisdictions are using Facebook, others aren't. That's okay. I think we're just looking to all of you to help us get the word out in whatever way makes sense for your community. The committee of representatives are looking to the week of March 28th to host an initial stakeholder meeting to gather some additional input on that list of projects. And then we are looking to identify some dates in April and May to host some informal community forums where members of the public could come interact with their local elected officials, learn more about this initiative, what it means for them, and get their questions answered. And then early summer, the committee will be taking all of that input and making recommendations to each of the town city councils for you all to make a decision on that ballot initiative. So that's kind of the high level timeline. Obviously there's going to be a lot of activities that kind of fall in between there, but wanted to give you guys an idea of where we're at. So I already went through the website, just wanted to make sure everybody knew that this was a resource. And if you get questions from citizens, you can absolutely send them here. We do have the list of committee members here, their email addresses. In addition, there's a comment form that people can fill out with their questions, and we'll be getting back to them. And then the last thing I just wanted to leave on, and then I'm happy to take questions, is, what are some of the next critical steps? And so for us, it's really about sharing project materials and resources so that the public has details and they feel like they understand all the different types of projects and what it's going to cost. We want to promote the community survey. We'd love to see, 300 or more completed surveys over the next couple of weeks. And then we want to make sure we're identifying opportunities for constituents to learn more about this. And then finally, just, working with the committee to prioritize these projects and budgets so that by the time you all need to vote in July, you have a really good understanding of how that and what that, process looks like and what that final list is going to look like. So that's kind of what I have for you now. Happy to answer some questions.
Councillors, questions? Councilman Zadi?
I guess I have a question on the survey. How accurate could that be to get a true feel for the general public when we're not doing like a random sample or getting a feel for the public as a whole? To me, we're just surveying, putting a survey out there, and those who want or support a certain portion of this tax are going to fill out the surveys, and we're going to be dealing with really biased information. So it's, how do we know what we're getting?
Yeah, we proposed 2 different types of survey methods to the committee, and one more scientifically valid, but that takes longer and it's obviously more expensive. Another is more this kind of community survey that the committee ultimately decided on. So the way I would think about it is it's kind of a way to get a pulse on the community, but it's not going to be an exact representative sample of the entire population of the county, because you don't have those controls in place that you would for like let's say a big political poll that you might do. So this is really it's a communication tool. So it's helping educate the public about what this initiative is. 2, it's a way for them to engage and provide input. And then 3rd, it does give you a little bit of insight. But what I would say is you wouldn't necessarily want to use the survey by itself to make a decision on which way to go. I think you've got to take a lot of different inputs, and the survey is just one of them. So, you may have people coming and speaking during public comment. You'll have people to the community forums. The committee will be hosting these stakeholder meetings and taking good notes there. So you'll have a number of different places where input is being provided. And I think you have to look at that holistically and not put too much pressure on the survey to make a decision one way or another, if that makes sense.
Would part of the education informative piece be also to include making sure that our voters are aware of the differences between a general purpose tax and a specific purpose tax? There seems to be a lot of confusion there, and I think it's important that this information is included.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. It's something the committee has talked about, that we've got to lead with that message. We addressed it, on the website, just in the FAQ, but I think as we start communicating more, and the survey will be kind of the first step, because that'll be the public's first chance to really weigh in. I think we have to communicate what a specific purpose tax is. And so in the survey, there'll be an opening paragraph, or there is an opening paragraph that we've drafted, and it addresses that. So that, because we do like to think of this survey, it's not only giving us input, but it's also our chance collectively to communicate to constituents. So I absolutely think that has to be a part of the message with the survey and everything else that comes after that.
Thank you, councillors. Councillor Ronson.
Sarah, just one question real quick, or maybe it's kind of a 2-part question. Once the survey is out and we have information flowing into us, How is that going to be delivered to us, and like on what timeline? Are we going to get like input real time, or are we going to be getting input like once a week? Hey, there were 13 responses. This was the context of them. How is that information going to be given to the committee?
Yeah, so typically what we do is we'd field it for a good 5 to 7 days and see where we're at. If we've got, let's say we've got 50 to 100 responses in the first week, we would report out just real high level, couple bullet points to the committee on how it's looking. And maybe some recommendations for, hey, responses are coming in a little bit slower than we'd like. Here are some ideas to further promote this throughout the community. Then if we end up getting enough responses that we close it in 2 weeks, we can typically turn around the results fairly quickly. Typically what we'll do is put together just a quick, maybe 10 slide deck with some graphs from each of the questions, and we would share that out to the committee. The committee would decide either, this is enough information, or we'd like to go maybe a level deeper. So we kind of work with you all on getting the presentation right, and then that's something that we would make available to the public, to all the local jurisdictions, really anybody who wants to see it. It should be part of the public domain.
Any other questions? Now's your time, councillors.
All right, one last one real quick, and it may be on the mind of a few people. And Commissioner Shanefield, this may be something that we'll just discuss within the committee, but when we saw some of the proposed projects from some of the other cities or entities, they weren't narrowed down to, like, say, the 5 or 6 primary projects that they're looking for. What is our timeline for getting those narrowed down, and do we have any idea on that?
Commissioner, did you want to answer that one?
She may not be able to hear us, so
Okay.
I'll just get with Commissioner Shanefield tomorrow and kind of clarify that and get the information across.
Okay. Yeah,
Right.
I don't have a good sense on. I don't want to speak for the group. I think it's my guess is the committee will probably need to have a quick discussion about what the next steps are in that process. So I just don't want to speak for the committee without giving you all an opportunity to work through that.
No, fair enough. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? I think it'll be important as we move closer towards the stakeholders group, the meetings, that everyone has a chance to see where they are. We all provided pretty much a list of projects that we felt were critical needs in our community, but making sure that those lists are still accurate and there's nothing to be removed or added based on any other funding or ideas up to that point. But those meetings are going to be critical with everybody at the table, so we can discuss just where we are and what we feel comfortable with, whether it's an amount or a time frame. I think those are questions that need to be answered and agreed upon by the entire group.
Yep. Agreed. I think we all agree. I think we've heard that same sentiment from the committee. So I think it feels like everyone's kind of on the same page there.
So just to recap, Sarah, the first stakeholders meeting is when?
It's the last week of March. I'm not sure a specific date has been. I think the commissioner was reaching out to each of the folks to find out their availability, but the goal is that last week of March, so just 2 weeks from now. No, she's shaking her head. Week of the 28th, I think, is what we had it on the calendar for, but obviously that could change if availability, if the group doesn't have availability that week. And there's likely to be more than one. I should mention that. That would be the first one. There's likely to be a follow-up stakeholder meeting. I would guess sometime in April.
Right, and have we decided, I know it doesn't sound like Commissioner Shanefield can hear, but have we decided, is that gonna be, in the form of a Zoom meeting, face-to-face? Do you know at this point, yet to be determined?
I don't think it's been determined.
Okay,
Zoom meeting, face to face, do you know at this point, yet to be determined?
we're having some weird IT things going on here. But anyway, are there any other questions?
I can hear you. I don't know if anyone else can.
Okay, Sarah, I don't think we have any other questions. We are going to sit tight and hopefully see something come here soon to where we can all get together and hash out a plan forward here that makes sense.
That sounds great. Thank you all for your time and comments, and look forward to getting in front of you again.
Okay, thank you, Sarah and Commissioner Shanefield.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
You too. Well, we'll see what comes of on or around March 28th. Councillor Robinson, I'm sure you'll keep us informed on those dates so we can get together and discuss this further.
I will, Your Honor. Just real quick, Commissioner Shanefield said that it would it is the last week of March, March 28th through
Okay.
the beginning of April, and it will be available both Zoom and in person.
Okay. All right, item number 2 under presentations from the Joint Powers Combined Communications Center annual report. We have Rick Hawkins, and I don't know if we have Tom Jarvie.
I have to apologize, he had a conflict come up, so it's just me. So,
Okay, Rick, it's all yours.
Mr. Mayor and councilors, I just wanted to take a few minutes and make sure that you were all aware. We instituted a process by where we complete an annual report, started in 2019, where we do an annual report about the things that went on in the communications center, up to and including mainly technology projects that we've had, that we've completed, that are ongoing, and in that we also presented a timeline of what we anticipate going forward for several budget years of things that we would request. Namely, it's based on the age of the equipment, maybe technology changes and things like that, kind of to give a look into the future of what some of these requests that may come from us to maintain the functionality of the center are. I think we emailed all that out to the city councils and the commission, and what I'm here tonight to do is, if you've had a chance to look at it, that's great. If you have not, I can hit on a few of the highlights, but I'm here to answer any questions or provide any additional details that you might have based upon the information in that report. So I guess right now, if there are any questions, I'll take them. If not, I'd like to take a few minutes and run through some of the highlights with you.
Any questions first, councilors? Go ahead, Rick.
Okay, sir. Like I said, we're pretty much a technology-driven agency, so that creates a lot of statistics. I won't give you all of them that we have, but in 2018, we implemented a computer system, and in fact several systems that allow us to track incoming, outgoing phone calls, radio traffic, calls for service assigned to police, fire, and medical, in pretty much in detail. So that started in late 2017, so our first full year's data started in 2018. And what that ended up being is, just for 2021, we handled 91,438 voice calls. What that represents is it would be it's about a 9% decrease from the previous year. So in 2020, and these are all calendar year statistics, not fiscal, so it would be January to December. Calls for service for all the agencies, we did 78,411 of those. That's everybody, police, fire, and EMS. Just for instance, in 2020, we did 75,881, so we had a 2.5% increase for those. Radio usage, that's two-way radio usage. We monitor that in minutes. The minute usage went down in 2021. The reason for that is as part of the technology that we use, we implemented a system that you can communicate with dispatch and not use the radio. It's using the computer system and mobile data computers in the cars. So we've implemented that as a way to communicate that's outside of the radio and or the phone. So we kind of expected to see that drop. I'm glad that works because it does help a lot during those busy times, leaving that air traffic for emergency calls, things that might happen. We have a call-taking protocol called Priority Dispatch. What that does is that allows the communicators through a scripted protocol questions to help determine the response of a police, fire, or EMS call. We can also provide instruction to callers on things like CPR, for instance. I don't know if you've heard about that or not. There's a push across the state legislature to make a thing called telephone CPR mandatory. In my opinion, and I think the opinion of many folks that have priority dispatch, that would actually be a step back from what we use. So I don't know where that's going to go. I think it's still alive in the legislature, but I don't think it's went anywhere. So just in case you hear about that, we already have a protocol in place that replaces that and most likely provides a better service. A couple of things that we completed projects in 2021. There was a joint venture between the Communications Center and Wyoming, the state agency for radios. We completed a new repeater site on Blairtown in Rock Springs that provides portable radio coverage pretty well now to law enforcement officers and any fire departments or other users that had dual band, what they call dual band radios. With that allowed us to put in a backhaul system that's resilient in our communication system, so we don't have a single point of failure. Prior to that, it was all T1 leased phone lines from the phone company. So we've made it IP-based and resilient, so it's a much better system for redundancy capabilities. We also had to replace our GPS net clocks, and because they were end of service and out of life. So that all happened during 2021. We also had an FBI procedural audit and a Wyoming DCI terminal agency audit. Those are two audits that are conducted by, of course, one by the FBI and one by the state of Wyoming in order for us to maintain access to the criminal justice information system. There's a certain set of rules that we have to comply with, and when we combined, we are the center now that we stand for almost all those audits, so that we're in compliance and able to get back vehicle registrations, criminal history information, things of that nature. They do the audits generally every other year, but we can get them every year from the FBI because we do represent Rock Springs Police, Green River Police, and the Sheriff's Office. So they're all subject to an audit, so in theory we could get one every year on behalf of each agency. But we did complete those. Those were, no issues were discovered, and things were all good. Just a little bit coming up. We have our 911 telephone system. We'll have a hardware replacement on that. We got the equipment in 21. However, there's a delay in installation and receiving some of the equipment, so it will get done this year. The way we work that one out, that one will be billed in our annual maintenance at the same rate that it was, rather than have an upfront cost for all the equipment. So we were able to work that out with Motorola on that. Again, there are things in here that run clear up to 2027 on proposed equipment replacement. Most of it is due to either end of life, out of maintenance support, or something along that nature. One thing that's fairly recent that I thought I'd bring to your attention is at the state legislature, they had a Senate file, it was Senate file number 41. What that did was that created an additional position on the Public Safety Communications Commission for a 911 representative. I don't know how many of you were counselors probably 2 years ago, but I can refresh you just a little bit that the state of Wyoming was ineligible for 911 grant funds at the federal level because the state of Wyoming did not have a 911 coordinator and a plan. So they've taken steps to rectify that. There has been a number of meetings with the state. It's YDOT is who is the, they have the, let's call him the 911 coordinator. It's Troy Babbitt. And he has hired a specific 911 person to make sure that we are eligible as a state to receive those funds if and when they become available at the federal level. They did that by making a group across the state so as to keep local control of those funds, because they are in local control right now. We, as well along as other representatives from the state, have been integral players in making this committees and things run, and requested this position on the PSCC because eventually there'll have to be some rules made in order to implement a next generation 911 system, and that seemed like the most logical place to put someone that has rule-making authority. So with that, that's just an overview of what we did in 2021. Again, if that spurred any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Councillors? Hearing none, Rick.
Thank you.
Rick, one question I did have, I guess. Do you ever see in the future an increased charge for 911 calls, or are we where we're at?
That has been discussed, and what the best way I think I can answer that, Mr. Mayor, is in the Intermountain or in the Rocky Mountain region, we're about half the cost of anybody else per 911 line of service. What I really see happening, and I don't know what it's going to take to make that happen, but I can tell you that we're $3 million as a state underfunded in 911 fees, okay, annually. The state did compile those numbers through the Department of Revenue, and this last month, this last accounting, we were $3 million underfunded. Revenue, what we got at 75 cents a line versus what entities spent.
Right.
So,
Well, you probably just said that, and maybe Chief, what's the hurdle there? What's the driving factor that this doesn't get adjusted?
well, I think it's got something to do with the fact that it's a tax and raising it. I really do. I can see no other reason for it other than that. Again, it's been presented, and I just hasn't got any traction yet. That even if we're under the state law now, we can only charge 75 cents a line, okay? And that's statewide. So even if you lived in an area that would accept $1 or something higher, you can't even do it because the state law won't allow you. So one of the requests was that, hey, look, even if you raise the maximum, it doesn't mean everybody's is going to raise.
Right.
I'll give you an example. The battle we fought was there were 2 counties, I think it was even as late as last year, that didn't even charge 75 cents. Okay?
Yeah,
So,
I remember that, but in the meantime, some of our adjoining neighbors are charging 4 and 5 times that.
yes, sir, they are. I could go through these all day, but in the 90s, late 90s, like 96, I think, is when the state legislature did enact a mechanism to charge prepaid cell phones. Prior to that, we had no way to recoup any of the 911 charges for a prepaid cell phone. Okay? Now, they did that in a different way than a per-line charge. You prepay that. In other words, you pay it at the time of sale. Okay? And I think it was like 1.25% or something like that is what ends up coming back.
I had a question too.
Councilman Zadi?
Now, with that, and that fee that we get from the phone companies and providers, we don't have a way to audit to make sure they're paying their fair share.
That's correct.
And how?
That's the other issue. yeah.
That's the other issue that, I mean, it's just a blind faith that they're giving us the right amount. Do other states operate this way as well? Is this just standard throughout?
It is more so than I would have expected. But I can tell you the state of Colorado has taken the lead on making it so it's not that way. So I think we'll have a good way to make this happen in the future, because they'll pay the way and show us how to make that happen. Because it is a challenge to be able to do that, but it's not insurmountable.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, the committees I was talking about, I was on the governance committee, okay? That was one of the things we talked about almost daily, was, hey, look, there's got to be a way to audit this, because we have no idea.
Yeah, no.
If they say they have 35,000 subscribers, you do that times 0.75, and that's the check we get, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we have no way of telling whether that's right or not. So,
Thank you.
Your Honor,
Councilman Batolo?
you said that the state underfunded $3 million. What percentage of increase would it be just to make up that on top of the 75 cents?
I want to say it's at least double, Counselor. So I'd be at least $1.50, and that would still put us in pretty good range in the Rocky Mountain region of the per line charge.
Right.
So.
Councilman Savage?
Where did you say the new tower is?
On Blairtown, it's up by
On
the
Blairtown? I thought so. You said
by the water tower there,
up at the
up by
hill.
the park.
With a,
And that'll reach the center in Green River, or how
Oh,
does
yeah.
that work?
Yes.
It bounces. No.
It's through a network to
Oh,
get
through
there,
the
a
network,
network
so.
of computers. That's why it's important we have resilient paths for them to go.
and then what is the status of the 14 mile?
They're waiting on getting connectivity into their site on White Mountain. Basically, their tower's full. That's the easiest way to put it. So they have to get up there when the weather gets better and decide what they're going to do to make that happen.
Any other questions? Councilman Halter?
Well, he wrote it. He probably don't have many questions. So.
Well, we appreciate the update, and by all means, at least seems like we're moving ahead, but it seems to me, we always get into that situation where it's almost an unfunded mandate, where the calls alone, if we doubled the 911 charge for calls, would surely help us keep up with the needs, but it's been several years and I don't see that
Our
happening.
numbers are down too as far as phones that we collect. So to your point, Counselor, is it real? Probably, because we've had a lower population, but I can't say that for sure without a way to audit. So.
Great. Any other questions? Well, Rick, thanks for your time and coming over and giving us an update on your annual report, and we'll probably see you in the near future as we get through the budget. Okay, as we move forward, we decided to skip the petition section of the agenda. No, just kidding. You guys awake down there? We are at the petition section of our agenda, and this would be the time that anyone wishes to address the city council. Now is your time to do it. And if it's in relation to chickens, how many hands are up that wish to speak? Okay, we're going to go, as are normally, if we have a lot, we're going to do a 3 minute. So if you get up, Kristen will let you know when your time's up. But step up to the podium, make sure the microphone's on. State your name, if you would, for the record, and go ahead.
Let me get this out real quick. Mackenzie Bertinoli, and I'll just do my statement real quick. To whom it may concern, my name is Mackenzie Bertinoli, and I've lived in Rock Springs for over 40 years. I'm here to change the city ordinance 3-527 in regard to keeping chickens within the city limits of Rock Springs. Prior to 2020, I had no clue about how to raise chickens. I got them due to the pandemic and food chain shortages we have been experiencing for over 2 years now. Since I have gotten them and raised them up from little chicks, they have become my companions and a food source. It has been a daily joy for me to go out and let them out of their coop in the mornings, get snuggles, and gather fresh eggs daily. It has really helped my mental health during the crisis of COVID-19. Chickens have been an animal companions of humans for thousands of years. When allowed to range in the backyard, they are very entertaining and they provide many more benefits to us than dogs or cats. They provide outstanding pest control, eating ticks, slugs, mosquitoes, flies, and many other insects. They provide eggs that are much more nutritious than those you can buy at the store. Backyard chickens will generally get far more humane care than those raised in filthy, crowded factory farms. Industrial production is creating numerous problems, including pollution from manure, antibiotic resistance, and higher risk of more dangerous strain of bird flu. Keeping a few chickens at home is one way we can do our part to address these problems. Limit their numbers and require clean, humane care, sure. But there is no legitimate reason for any city to prohibit keeping a few chickens, any more than there's a reason to ban the keeping of dogs or cats. Many cities are changing their chicken code following the increase of homeowners who are interested in gaining more control over their own food sources. It is legal to have backyard chickens in Green River, Cheyenne, Casper, Gillette, Rollins, just to name a few cities in Wyoming. You can also have chickens in New York City, New York, and also in Salt Lake City, Utah. Whatever your reason for wanting to raise your own backyard hens, know that the work is more than repaid in delicious, nutritious eggs. From eating your kitchen scraps to creating amazing compost, not to mention the entertainment and garden companionship a backyard flock provides. I believe in being as self-sustaining as possible, enjoying God's creatures, and want to stress the responsibility that goes with raising chickens, cats, or dogs. If you take it on, do it right and enjoy it. Do your homework and take the time to see how others are doing it as they share their real-world knowledge. And I have little pamphlets for all of you guys. I don't have to go through the whole thing.
Yeah, if you
It's got some
could,
more
Mackenzie,
information. Do you want them?
you can just drop
don't-
one off to
okay.
that end and we'll just pass them through.
Well, I thought you were going to assign me to
It could happen.
And then I've also got approximately 650 signatures on a change.org petition. And then I also, Murdoch's is one of 34 stores that cannot sell chickens due to the ordinance.
Okay.
And so Murdoch's has also agreed to put petitions up in their store, and I've got about 100 signatures from them.
Your time's
I'll give you those too.
there, but we appreciate that information, and we'll move on to the next one if we have
Okay,
some time.
thank you.
If there's something else that comes up, we can hash that out as well. Patty, how are you?
I am fine. My name is Patty Slanzik Thomas, and I'm a neighbor of Mackenzie. And she's a very good neighbor. The girls have never caused any problem. She's very generous with her eggs, and she has a gorgeous garden, as I have had some of the fruits of the vine. And that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you for coming down and bringing that support. Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Bud Smith, and I've talked to, well, most of you on the phone about getting chickens in town, except for Councilor Halter and Mayor Como. You guys should call me back. I left some messages. All right, and I know where a lot of the votes are, and it's very close. You know, we got some maybes, we have 2 solid yeses, we need 2 more yeses. You know, it's not fair that we can't have chickens in town. People have cats, people have dogs. I've listened to your objections, and I understand them, but there are ways to work it all out. You know, limiting the amount, no roosters, and we should just do this. It's all around us in Wyoming. and we're behind the curve. It's time to get ahead of the curve. Thank you.
So Bud, and I do apologize, I got your message about the same time I spoke to a couple of counselors, and it seemed like they spoke to you, so I did not call you back. But do you have anything to offer on if the city was to have this consideration, what's the thought? Should there be a limit? Should there be, what's your thoughts? Because this was hashed out, as you well know. Thank the Lord it was in my absence. What kind of rules would you like to see in place, or no rules?
Just a limit on how many you can have.
Which would be?
I don't know, 5, 10. 5, 10 per property. 15, that can be hashed out. No roosters.
If you say 5, 10, Mackenzie's already out at least 2 chickens.
I put you guys in ordinance. I already did all the work for you. It's right on the new ordinance. I'll deal down to 12. That's how many I have right now.
Well, there could even be a permitting, where you take a look at the property, the size of the property, you're permitted for this many. We want to be reasonable. Everybody wants to be reasonable here. And we are here petitioning our government to be reasonable and give us the freedom we want and let us do with our property as we see fit. And I don't find that unreasonable. And yeah, no roosters. Nobody wants to get waken up at 5 a.m. And that's a very understandable thing. But, we deal with dogs and cats in town.
Right.
That, cats killing birds.
The only problem is, usually when you want to go about this, and don't get me wrong, I have nothing against chickens, and I love eggs. But the bottom line is you don't find yourself breaking the law when you decide you want to change the law.
I am not breaking the law.
No,
I do not have chickens.
I know, I'm looking at Mackenzie because she kind of got in some trouble here, but I get what you're saying, and I would just like to hear from our counselors on what direction they'd like to take, because this was, I'm going to say a couple were here during the last hash out, maybe Councillor Zadi, Halter, just you two.
Yeah, that's all it was, yeah.
But right now, I have an open mind, and we have rules on the book right now, and I totally understand your concern. Usually what we have is a situation where an issue comes up and there's already a law. Take speeding. You don't decide just you're going to go out and speed because it's already a law. And if you think running downtown instead of 20, it should be 30, you might want to come in and change that ordinance. But
that's not really comparable. That it would be, yes, I agree, you don't speed, but it would be all people speed, so
Right.
let's take everybody's cars.
yeah, well, let's listen to some comments. I'm interested in councilors chime in. Councilor Bachello?
have
Go
some.
ahead.
Oh, or Brent.
At this point in time, it was brought up in 2013. I don't really feel that we need to rehash or reinvent the wheel. Animal control is, they've got enough to do as it is. You add another species into it besides cats and dogs and the wild animals that we have in here, in the town that they have to put up with. It's just another burden on the resources that we have. And I honestly believe that the Humane Society and the other agencies are struggling enough to keep up with what they're going on and what's going on and the numbers that they have within. I just don't see another species, or another type of animal going into it. The other, I've had a number of calls over the last 2 weeks on this issue, and I've got to tell you, the vast majority of people that I've talked to don't want them. So listening to the majority, I've got to take that into consideration as well.
They sent who an email?
Didn't see anything.
Yeah, Mackenzie, you do, there's people watching at home. If you are going to speak, you will have to come up.
I spoke with Candy Folks today, and she said that I asked them if they were in favor of it, and she said she didn't feel that it would cause a more workload for them. I don't know what else was contained in the email, but she said that they did send that. And then that's why we were offering the $50 permit fee too, because that would bring revenue to the struggling animal control services and keep from everybody, oh, we want chickens. That would limit, the thought of everybody's going to go out and buy chickens.
The $50 fee. People may just go to get chickens and not come pay the fee.
Well, then
chickens would be forfeited immediately.
Your Honor?
Councilman Savage.
So we have, I would say 75% of homes have a pet now. And they have at least one, if not two, or, in some cases, you can have up to 4. Because that would be the other thing that would have to be changed. You can have 4 animals total. You can have 1 cat, 1 dog, 2 chickens, if we allow chickens. So let's say we have 10,000 homes in town, 7,500 of those have animals. We have about 15,000, 17,000 animals in town. 10% get a license every year.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 1% get a fine every year for not having a license. We simply don't have the staff. I would be extremely, well, maybe someone told you something that you thought you heard, but I would doubt that very much. We have one nuisance officer who is extremely busy and has really no time for any of this. The only time we react to something, we're not proactive.
Correct.
We can't be proactive. So the other thing, it's just, I'll be done real quickly. If someone rents property, they have to get permission from the owner to have a chicken or a dog or a cat. And that's one of the problems that we have, is very few rental properties allow animals, because residents of Rock Springs have a long history of being poor pet owners. So that's the other problem. And then my personal feeling on the chicken issue is that it's like sourdough bread was 2 years ago. And then that would be an issue. And then if chickens have to be confiscated for whatever reason, that's property. That property has to be held. Those chickens would have to be identified, tagged, separated, all those things for at least 5 days before they could be adopted out, or if there was some kind of a legal issue. So those are my concerns. And then it would attract other animals. It's just not going to work in my mind.
So I spoke with Green River Animal Control about the issue, and you can have a rooster over there in Green River. And I spoke with Tracy Wyatt at Green River Animal Services over there, and she said they have very few chicken calls. That the only calls that they normally get are a handful in a year, and it's usually due to a noisy rooster or somebody's dog that has gotten their chicken. She said they don't have issues with chickens. They don't have issues with dirty coops. She said they just don't deal with that. So that's close by us that,
It's a completely different place. Green River is a completely different place than Rock Springs. We probably have over 40 cats. They probably have 3 in animal control. We probably have 15 dogs. They probably have 4. They have twice the staff we have. They have half the population that we have. They have a much more stable population than we do.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different place.
Councilman Zadi, did you have something?
Yeah, I've got a lot to say on that. One, Rock Springs in general, to stereotype and say Rock Springs people don't take care of their pets, I think
that's
it's a bunch of BS.
pretty unfortunate thing to say about Rock Springs.
I don't think that's correct at all. I think anywhere you go, any community there's people that don't take care of their animals, there's people that don't take care of their property. Okay? And I'm starting to think, I'm for chickens, I've supported it all the time, but now I'm starting to think, boy, if we're so overwhelmed with everything and we've got so much problems with what we currently have, we need to think about putting a moratorium on owning dogs and cats and nobody own any more dogs or cats.
Exactly.
If we're having this many problems. So it baffles me sometimes what we try to think and shoehorn to try to come up with an excuse, and they probably have, and we probably have, doesn't cut it for me. I'm sorry. There's got to be solid numbers, figures, and everything else. I don't deal in probabilities. Now, as far as what we hashed out last time, and we did come up with an ordinance back in 2013. And, you know, the question was asked, what would you like as far as controls? What would you like to see? Well, I'm going to go through some of the things that we had for an ordinance, and some of them fall through with what I think, what I just breezed through your copy here.
Yes.
It would be now, I know in one ordinance, we're able to have 4 adult rabbits within city limits. Yeah. So, I mean,
And
and
you
I
still
think we
have
limited
potbelly
ours
pigs,
to
too?
four chickens, no hens. There was a $25 fee for application. The applicant must have written consent from, a written consent form signed and approved by all property owners adjacent to the applicant's property. So you get permission from your neighbors. They shall comply with applicable animal control and zoning ordinances. No person shall keep any rooster. No person shall slaughter any chickens within city limits. Chickens shall be provided with a covered enclosure and must be kept in the covered enclosure or a fenced enclosure at all times. All persons shall not keep chickens in any location on the permitted property other than in a location specifically permitted by the zoning administrator. No covered enclosure or fenced enclosure shall be located closer than 3 feet from any property line of an adjacent property, or 25 feet to any residential structure on an adjacent property. So it has to be within at least 25 feet from the property line and 25 feet from a home.
Have you seen Ludwig Street?
Yeah, there's properties,
I mean,
but this is
yeah,
the
it's
ordinance
like, I
that
mean,
we
we're so
tried
close
to
together and the street's so narrow, but yeah, I just wanted to make it so
make
there
it
was
so
enough space.
we could try this
Mm-hmm.
and accommodate some of the concerns that people had before. Yeah, there's properties that this just won't work. That's
Right.
okay. This is what a sample of the ordinance we had. Let's see. All feed and other items associated with the keeping of chickens that are likely to attract or become infested with or infected by rats, mice, or other rodents shall be protected in a weather-resistant container designed to prevent access by animals. The city may revoke any permit granted under this section for failure to comply with the provisions of this ordinance, and a person who has been issued a permit shall submit it for examination upon demand by any police officer or animal control officer. Failure to abide by the terms of this ordinance shall be a criminal offense punishable by a fine up to $750 and/or incarceration for up to 6 months. That's kind of the standard there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what we worked with before. And, you know, I unfortunately failed to I think, well, there's only 2 of us that voted for it. At the time, I did call other communities that had it. Green River was one, and there were several around the state as well. And they didn't have many issues as far as animal control in that. I know now there's several people in town that have chickens, and the neighbors don't complain at all.
Yes, I believe there's a rooster over by the rec center right now.
Yeah, I know a couple years ago, I
And
was
I'm
driving
not
home for
trying
lunch,
to
and
be
I had,
tattletale, but
there were
there's
3
several
chickens that got
people
out.
have chickens in town.
Yeah, there were 3 chickens that got out somewhere around my house. So it's around rec center, someone has chickens.
Woodhaven.
But I know there haven't been any complaints. And so that's what gets me is, I know a number of people that have them, but no one's complaining.
And they're not willing to stand up either because they don't want their chickens taken away.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, it's kind of bizarre to me, but, yeah, I'm thinking though, boy, our nuisance officers and animal controls are such a burden. There's so many pets out there. We might want to consider just not letting people have any more dogs or cats.
If my dog heard that, he would, she
If
would
my
call
cats heard that,
DFS.
they'd be
But
upset.
that's kind of, that's the ultimate conclusion there. We're having that much
Exactly,
problems,
because
and-
they are comparable to
Why
dogs
are
or
we-
cats. I mean, they
Yeah.
know their name, they're friendly, they're a pet, yes. And I think a lot of people are just uneducated about how chickens are. I didn't know that there were, so many things that you can learn about them. And then the fresh eggs, that was the biggest thing for me was.
One thing I did when I sat down when this first came about is I was against it. And I have told people this story before. I said it last time. I sat down, it was a Friday night, I sat down on my computer and I said, I'm finding ways to justify why I'm against this. I got online, I researched it, and I thought, I don't know why I'm against this. And so that's how I got to where I was. Initially, yeah, I didn't want it. I thought, why the heck would anybody want chickens? I don't want chickens. I'm not going to take chickens. My neighbors want them, and I said it in the meeting before. You've got my permission. If the ordinance passed, you have my permission, so.
Yeah, and all of my neighbors, all surrounding me, even the back, is all for it as well. They've signed it as well.
Councillors?
Your Honor. You want to go first, Dave?
Councilman Halter,
Sure.
and then Robinson.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, thanks for providing a sample
I
ordinance.
worked really hard on that.
A lot of people that come up here and complain about
I've
issues.
been doing chickens for 2 weeks now, so
A lot of
thank
people
you.
that come up here and complain about various issues never offer any suggestions, so I really appreciate that.
Yes, for sure.
So I did vote against it last time we went through it in 2013. I do like the ordinance that we came up with before. I do think 15 is too many. I mean, we're only allowing 4 animals per household, period. So
Right.
I would still stand at 4. I like the ordinance the way it was before. The reason why I voted against it was we had such an opposition to it before, and our animal control didn't want to deal with it then. It sounds like they're more open to it now. I am getting the same phone calls that Brent's getting. We are getting a lot of negative opposition to it as well. I will say I'm not a big fan of petitions because we'll get it from both sides. Last time we got the most, and then the next meeting
I
we
saw
got
that.
the most.
Yeah.
So to me, petitions don't really get me anywhere. But I'm really glad that you brought us some samples. I would be willing to bring it back up. We got 3 readings regardless. So if it gets back on our agenda, we have to go through 3 public hearings. So, but yeah, I'm open to looking at it again.
Thank you.
Councilman Robinson.
All right. I'm a little bit disappointed that someone decided to wear a chicken outfit tonight because I was thinking about doing that, but I thought it might be in bad taste.
And it's all love and light. This is all to, so everybody will love chickens.
I also
It's
thought
not
about
to make a mockery.
Compliments, Mr.
Right. Right.
Tim. You did.
I did go for the Ukrainian
I know, we're
colors
matching.
tonight. Yes. So I also thought about stopping at KFC and grabbing a bucket of chicken to set up here as we had this discussion, but I also thought
You can't eat
that
chicken
may be
nugget.
in poor taste. So I am optimistically, I don't know if that's the right word. I lean towards yes on chickens, but I'm one opinion. And I think when I spoke to Mr. Smith, I had a couple calls. I've had more since then. It's about 50-50.
Yeah.
About half of the people will say, yeah, let's do it, and half of the people say don't. And typically the folks that reach out to us are the ones that are most passionate on either side. I would also be open to revisiting this. I'm not sure. I'm one of the newbies on the council, so I'm not sure what the process would be, but I would like to see it go to a public vote. So you don't see a bunch of councilmen making a decision one way or the other.
Yes.
I think that would give ample time for both sides to,
State
find
your
the guys
case.
on their side
Yes.
and say, hey, definitely get out there and vote. I would also be interested in attaching it to the specific purpose tax. So if we pass chickens, we pass a specific purpose tax. I don't know. I'm not quite as optimistic on that going through. So, right, specific chickens. Likewise, the city does have a limit on the number of animals you can have. If you have a kennel license, you get 1 extra.
Yeah, that's
so you
what I
could
have
have up to
currently.
5.
I breed exotic short hair, Garfield, flat-faced cats. So
Gotcha.
I do have a kennel license as well.
Okay.
Because I have 5.
So you would be able to have,
I can have
5
up to
chickens.
10 cats.
So I'd be curious to research this more. I did reach out to a friend who lives in Sheridan, where they're also legal. And they provided me with a load of information, both pro and con, that I've shared with the council. So I'm open to revisiting it. I would like to see it go to a public vote as opposed to, a bunch of people up on the council making that decision, because that decision was made once before. I see both sides. I obviously won't be able to have any chickens because I've got my limit of animals with, fur and teeth and claws. But I'm open to it. So,
Your Honor,
Councillor West.
I guess I'll go next. Pretty much stated how I felt at the last meeting, but it was solidified. I too have received an overwhelmingly majority of opposition to it. I got a call from Mr. Smith there, who I believe is in Ward 1, for it, as well as.
Councillors, sorry, is there any way you guys can quantify the calls that you?
Can I finish, please? I also got an email from Ward 4 for someone in support of it. All other calls, about half a dozen, have been against it. And a large majority of those were the same people that were against it when this was brought up the last time. I, again, feel like we've been there, done that, and I personally am not for revisiting the situation. As far as the public vote goes, I kind of feel like we were elected by the people to make these decisions, and that is our job. So I'm a no.
Any other input, councillors? First time input, anybody? Anybody?
Your Honor. I'm one of the people that's on the fence about it. Most of the calls I get, I don't know if it's because I'm in more of the rural portion of the town. They're okay with it. Got a handful, up to 5, I would say, that are staunchly against it. 3 of them aren't in my ward. So if I were to vote for the people in my ward specifically, I would be voting for it. I kind of have to agree personally, though, with what Mr. West says. Why are we going to keep rehashing this until it's completely done? I mean, I feel it's been handled before, so.
That was 9 years ago.
It was.
This is America. We won't stop till we get our
It
freedoms.
was.
Let's get back on track. Any other comments from the council? Hearing none, is there any new speakers wishing to address the council?
Yes.
3 minutes, go ahead. State
Hello,
your name.
I'm David Rossi, Rossy Jr. I would like to speak today to you about revenue. I believe that with these chickens, this could possibly increase revenue for the animal control. I heard with your speaking that according to, well, for me it's hearsay, they're having issues, right, with revenue and staffing. Well, chickens could present opportunity for them to make more money, not just with the $50 registry fee. That's one thing. But I'm talking about more money in the community, more strict regulations on keeping your chickens like you would do a salon, for instance. Kennel license is one thing, but I have more experience in the hair business. But in a salon, you have your health inspector who comes in, and they check. If you don't follow the regulations, you get shut down. Now, when it comes to registering your chicken coops, having somebody come out, there could be a small little fee, whatever it is that we agree upon, to where you have the animal control officer come and check out that coop. Do they have everything that's necessary? Do they have all of the necessary tools in the space for this? And if they don't qualify, well, hey, that fee, we came, we checked, but you don't qualify. You just don't make the regulations for this area. Yeah. So I thought about that really hard, and I began to think, okay, we have all these financial issues here. Eggs is just one thing. This decision to keep this from us is forcing us to pay the oligarchical grocers here. They have the control, and you're allowing it, the ones who say no. You're allowing us to have to be forced to pay the corporations. Why can't we be free? Why can't we use our lands that we pay for to do this instead of taking the food from our mouths? It's hard for us already as it is. Maybe we all come from different socioeconomic backgrounds. I'm considering that. I'm aware of it. But some of us really have to fight hard to just make sure we have some food on the table. You're taking food from those people. That's what I would like to say. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, David. I appreciate the
revenue
comments.
That might.
Your Honor.
Councilman Robinson.
I'm also very familiar with hair.
Really? I can't tell.
It's been a long time since I've been to a salon of any kind. Chief Pacheco, right offhand, do you have an idea of roughly the income that animal control brings in from dog licensing?
Mayor and Council Robinson, I do not have those numbers in front of me, but they're pretty meager regarding the revenues that do come in.
Right. Okay.
But I can get those to you, absolutely.
Just a thought. Okay, and I figured Mr. Savage would probably know. So $12,000, that's not going to pay for
Right.
even one employee. So I understand your argument, but I don't think it's a valid argument at this point. And right now, we're looking at trying to pass a specific purpose tax to pay for flood mitigation and just a number of infrastructure projects throughout the county. And people don't want to pay an extra tax for that, something that can affect their livelihood, their homes, and everything else. So I'm not sure that's probably going to be the best argument. We've heard some good arguments. I think that whenever a company does research into any project, they do opposition research. So they look to see what the other guy thinks, what the other guy says, and what the negative aspects are. And I think that's something that I would encourage you folks to do, is to kind of look at the arguments and have an argument against those arguments. But I'm just not sure that's probably the best argument as far as finances.
Yeah.
Ms. Bertinelli, how much did you say you paid a month on chicken feed?
Approximately 150 to 200.
Okay.
But I buy them bugs.
Sure.
And those are like $50 a bag for black soldier fly.
And how many eggs do you get a
They're
day?
spoiled, so I go through those in like 2 weeks, and then the regular feed is about $17 for a 50-pound.
Okay, how many eggs do you get a day?
12.
So.
Each of my chickens lay, but the silkies lay little tiny eggs. They're not.
Okay, so little tiny eggs would make a really tiny omelet, so it's probably not going to.
No, they fill up a quart-sized jar, really good for pickled eggs.
Okay.
Which, I mean,
So again, I'm not sure that that's an argument, because I love eggs, and I know that I don't spend $200 a month on eggs. So.
no. And you can feed them your chicken scrap or your kitchen
Sure.
scraps and things.
Free
like
garbage
that.
disposal.
Mine are just
Great
spoiled.
fertilizer.
Bugs.
Yeah, I get those things.
And
But-
it helps too. It helps with depending on what you feed them.
Sure.
And that helps your fertilizer.
Gotcha.
So they're really high in nitrogen.
Okay.
Really good for your garden.
All right, I'm done, Your Honor.
Okay,
Thanks.
Councillor West.
In response to Mr. Rossi's comment there, I think you were referring to a hair salon, but what you stated was if you don't follow the regulations, you get shut down, which is exactly why we're here. So, well, the irony with that comment is interesting. It's more than just a fine. The rules are there, and they were broken, and so now the answer is to revisit them and go through this process again.
Yes.
I would ask, is there anyone else here tonight that wishing to speak for the first time? Name and go ahead. 3 minutes.
My name is Thomas Holmes, and I'm actually David Rossi's husband, and I'll try to keep this under a minute. I know we are all pressed on time, so I'll just start with the basics. So, yes, chicken eggs would be great for feeding our community and everything, but it also brings marketing potential. We're looking at potential for farmers markets to have fresh chickens, chicklets. Mackenzie brought up Murdoch's earlier, so we're also looking at a potential for Murdoch's to do Chick Day again. Thing that they're not allowed to do here in town due to the ordinance. They are the only store in the nation that I am aware of that does not do chicks on Chick Day, which doesn't really look good on our local Murdoch's. And what is it, Beauchamp's? What's the place over in Green River? Beaugard's, that one. Yeah, Beaugard's also does chicks. So Baumgard's does chicks over in Green River as well. So I think we should consider this as a potential marketing opportunity as well as a potential survival sustainability opportunity. So that's all from me.
Appreciate your comments, Thomas. And anyone else? First time? Come on down.
Hello. Oh, I must be shorter than everyone else. My name is Karina Fernango. I have lived here and in Farson my entire life. I'm a business owner. I have properties that I rent. I am here pro having chickens. we were talking about burden. The burden lies in going to the store and not being able to buy eggs to make bread. I have celiacs, and well, the ingredients to make the bread is eggs, so if you can't get them, you can't make the bread. The burden lies in not being able to be somewhat sustainable in our area. Neighbors can have a barking dog, and there's nothing I can do about it except for call an overworked animal control person. I manage my own properties. If you're a landlord that doesn't want your people to have tenants to have pets, then you put that in the lease and they sign it when they lease the property. Then your landlord has the repercussions of that if you don't follow the rules. And let me tell you, from what I've seen, I'd rather deal with a chicken than a dog, for sure. I say, and we talked about the money, it costs a lot of money to keep chickens. But if someone's willing to put in the work and the money to keep our area sustainable, then why should we stop them? You know, it doesn't make any sense. And in saying that, you should be able to let us keep enough to even make it worth our while. I mean, if you have no cats, no dogs, no rabbits, no birds, you can have 4 chickens. If you have 1 dog, you get 3. That's not even enough to make it worth your while. Like, you go buy a chicken coop, it's going to be the size of this to house your 2 or 3 chickens. You're going to get 3 eggs a day. That's not even enough. I say a dozen chickens would be sufficient for you to put in the time, put in the work and the money to keep our local area sustainable in one way anyway. And that's all I have to say. I hope you rethink it.
Thanks, Karina. Any questions for Karina? Any other comments? Well, councilors, it sounds like there's a mixed split council up here anyway. I am open to suggestions if the council wishes or does not wish to rehash this out. I would just suggest that you have time to think about it, take in the considerations that you're getting from your wards. I can also say I'm taking a lot of calls, and they're pretty split. They're 50-50 for and against, and I'm going to say I think as of yesterday, 8 calls, and including 1 in support, there are 4 and 4. And one of the questions I would have, and was brought up, and I did pass that along, was the neighbors who had witnessed chickens living next to chickens was the smell, and we've been through that. And one of the reasons why the coop was never put next to the house is that something that you can elaborate on? Because the smell, do you keep it away from your house and put it up against the neighbor's fence and then they deal with it? Where's your coop?
My backyard, so I
Yeah.
have a shed and it's
So is it closer to your neighbor's fence or your house?
So it is closer to their fence. I'm on Lifeguard Street, so we're real close together. The fence lines, but their actual coop is about. And another 10 feet from the.
Your Honor, if I can just ask a question real quick.
Councilman Robinson?
So, Mackenzie, the ordinance that was drafted prior had basic specifications on where it would be in relation to your neighbors. With you living on Ludwig, I mean, obviously this may be somewhat restrictive of certain homes because they don't have a particular, the layout.
Mackenzie?
10 feet from the well on an adjacent lot. That was my suggestion was.
Sure, and I haven't.
Keeping them, and then keeping the coop under building codes as well. So not over 7 feet, you know, according to our building codes. I'm not quite sure what they are for sheds and stuff, but.
Right. Well,
I'm even
I haven't
offering-
had a chance to look through what you've provided yet.
Yeah, it's
so-
on here of what, I'm just asking to take the word chickens out of the ordinance that's already been created. Copy and paste, delete it, and add the new ordinance.
Well, obviously,
with all the conditions.
Obviously, our city attorney would probably want to take a look at it first and give him
Of
the
course.
opportunity to do so.
Yes, and-
as well as the rest of us up here. Like Councilman Halter said, I appreciate the fact that you actually came in here with a solution and some ideas.
And I hope that
you-
I addressed any of the issues, like with the coop and.
Well, we all need a chance to read it first.
Yes,
so
for sure.
And that's what I
please-
would suggest.
It took me a day to write, so.
Councilor McKenzie, let us digest the information that we have, and if we can see that there's support from the city council to take a look at this and add new language, then so be it. And if not, then we won't. We vote on this together. We make decisions together in the best interest of our constituencies, and give us time to digest the information.
Okay.
And listen to those others that are chiming in, and then by next meeting we'll make a decision.
And is there a way to get the opposition? Are they gonna come to and talk, or? Okay, I'm waiting, so, because I really do want to talk to them and change
Here
their
would be
minds
my
about
recommendation, though. Let everyone have their opportunity to speak and no, comments from the peanut gallery
Correct.
or the chicken nugget gallery. So just let everyone have an opportunity to have their, say,
Yes.
and then, address people one-on-one.
So are
and-
we able to talk to them and ask them questions of why that they're against it?
Well, I don't know how you'd find out who those people are, but I can guarantee your counselors and myself will probably be getting calls. And I would say everybody out there, if you are watching the council meeting, to make sure you contact your counselors and let them know whether we think this is worth rehashing or not. Decisions that were made by the city council in 2013, but if there's interest by the city council in your constituencies, I have no problem with moving forward with that as well.
So you said that this would go on to an agenda, a new agenda, and it would be so this isn't going to be our first reading tonight?
No,
Okay.
it is not.
Okay.
If it ever came to that point, it'd be in the form of an ordinance again that would go between or through 3 readings for the general public to comment on it.
Okay.
And we have an ordinance on the books right now that is what it is.
Okay.
And we would actually have to sit down, revise the ordinance. The city attorney would offer changes to the ordinance based on what the councilors felt was warranted or not. And then it would go through three readings.
Okay.
So it's a process. That's at least 3 meetings, with the first being at least a meeting to revise the ordinance, so.
Okay.
Your
So
Honor.
that happens first, and then you vote?
Right.
Your Honor.
Councilor Dottie?
And the way it works, and that's how it worked last time, is an ordinance was proposed, and believe me, like, build it, they will come, create an ordinance, and they will come. on
Okay.
chickens. I mean, chickens has been one of the things that people are most vocal about. It's bizarre to me, but that's the way it is. So we create a draft ordinance, put it on the agenda, we get feedback from everybody, and then the council, and then we create amendments to that ordinance.
Okay.
And then we go to maybe the second reading, or create those amendments at the second reading, and then vote on the third. Sometimes, if there's a lot of contention there still, we may table it and digest it a little bit more, think about it a little bit more. So there's a process that's followed. Once the ordinance is there, it's three readings, first, second, and third, and all 3 times you have a chance to make changes or amend or adjust where we feel it might work for us. And that's where we got with this last one that I read.
Okay.
So when we're talking Ludwig being not able to accommodate some of those conditions, but that's based off of, that's how that ordinance evolved.
Okay.
We started putting those restrictions.
Yeah, I
in to
read
try and make it-
through the minutes and saw too that, they wanted people's signatures so they could say, yes, they could have chickens. And I think you were kind of against that, saying that you shouldn't have to.
Yeah,
Are you still the same thought as?
I'm saying I didn't have to with my dog or anything, so I don't know why I would with chickens. We don't require it for rabbits. We don't
Correct.
require it for pot-bellied pigs, I think are allowed, so.
Right. Are they still allowed? Because it says pigs in the ordinance, but I've heard that you can have potbelly pigs in
Maybe.
town too.
Yeah, I'd have to look again for sure, but I know that we're.
Yeah,
part
those
of
are-
that, so
Mayor,
that's the
councilors, may
process.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's right.
Bacon and eggs.
Mr. Beckwith.
One of the things that we did in the process last time was have a workshop. And I think that was very helpful because that was an opportunity for the council to actually invite people with the specific purpose of talking specifically about chickens. And I think we had quite a few participants in that workshop. So you might want to consider that as opposed to just simply putting an ordinance on and then inviting public comment before.
I'm not interested in creating a workshop if there's, if we're having a workshop for 2 or 3 people, and I understand that's important as well, but we need time to get input and just see whether there's an interest for a workshop and an interest to change an existing ordinance or not. And I think it's a little bit premature at this point to make that decision. So let's give the councilors time to digest the information that you've provided, take the input that they're getting from their constituency, and then we'll make that decision by the next meeting.
Okay, so the next meeting in April?
Yeah.
Okay, April 9th, I believe it is.
I heard every single council member except you, Miss Demas. I think I said your name right. Demas. Miss Demas, what are your feelings on this?
Like I told the gentleman that called me, I'm on the fence. I don't know. I do think there has to be a limit on the number of chickens you can have. 12 seems like an awful lot with dogs and cats and everything, but yeah.
I do agree with all of the council members. I think a limit would be a smart idea, to say the least. But I do think that, like, when it comes to chicken feed and taking care of the chickens, that those different price tags will probably fluctuate naturally as we start to take in a new market for chickens. So we should also take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Okay, are there any other comments? We're still under petitions. It don't have to be about chickens. Any issue whatsoever? No, you're done, bud. You've been up there like 3 times. Let's see if there's anybody else first. Anybody? Come on, one more time.
Okay. For those who are just tuning in, I'm David Rossi Jr., R-O-S-S-Y, and I'm from Ward 3. Now, there's this adjacent lot behind my home. It's right there between Bunning Park and Vase. I'm curious about that, and if that is city property or if it is the property of Vase.
Where is this?
It's the lot on J Street between J and Evans, and we just tore all those abandoned houses down. And I'm curious about this because my proposal is somewhat of another park, for instance. I live there. I have dogs. I see a lot of people who come around that neighborhood who have dogs as well. And it might be a beautiful luxury dog garden park in the future. It could be something like that.
Chickens, maybe?
No chicken smells. But as far as that area,
what's your address?
125J. Yes, the lot right behind the blue apartments. Well, we're not allowed to take dogs into Bunning Park. Yeah, so a nice little garden park.
That is just parking for the park.
It's just parking?
Mhm.
Well, I have a lot of individuals in downtown in our ward. I'll have to get with you later. We'll have to mastermind. Wow.
Ward 2.
Yeah, Ward 2? I thought I'm Ward 3.
He's in Ward as well.
Oh, okay.
Councilman Halter.
So I think when it comes down to that area, I've lived in that neighborhood for 27 years, same place, grew up downtown Rock Springs, and I've seen it change. It used to be very, very ghetto, very bad down there. But when I see us making a parking lot, things like that, well, it just doesn't feel right. And a lot of people down there think that too.
Well, Dave, the issue that you should know is the
Yes, sir.
grant that the city of Rock Springs acquired to remove those terrible homes and apartments down there had one contingency on that. and
Which
that
was?
that it could be used for parking areas for the park. But
Okay.
we couldn't construct
So do we know how much property, you may know this, I don't particularly, how much space between the apartments and the parking lot zoning is? You know, then I would have an issue if there's a parking lot right behind my house and I've lived there for a while. So, you know, to think about this and how I may be able to challenge this appropriately, you know, the buffer space. I don't want all these cars just parking up at my back window of my home.
I'm gonna say where you live, do you live in those
I
apartments?
do, and I have
Frank's?
for about 30 years.
They're actually zero lot line, there is no buffer zone.
There's no lot line or anything like that?
No, and then the bigger issue there is that parking lot that's in front of those apartments is actually city-owned as well.
Right, that is
And-
definitely city. We had an issue too, there's a wall where the trees are. No one's seeming to claim that land there between the apartment and the building where the trees are and the little causeway or concrete separation. And that'd be something to think about, whose property that line is. Because when it comes to getting the trees trimmed, we've talked in the past to the city. The city didn't want anything to do with the trimming of the trees, and it's kind of been dangerous at sometimes. But then also Wing Lu said that his property, it's not his either. So we're having some issues about a tree trimmage.
You're expanding your boundary quite considerably.
Well, this is
starting out
my
with
second
chickens and
time at
now
council,
we're trimming trees.
Mayor. I'm excited. I might want one of your chairs in the future, so.
This is what happened when you start getting in that political window.
Yeah,
and then
you
I'll
gave
say,
me
"Get
the
everything
bug."
well I can get while I'm there.
I got it.
I'll discuss that with our city engineer. I know what you're talking about. I've spoke with Frank about that before, but the problem with that, like I said, that city of Rock Springs owns that parking lot, and at any given time, we go down there and there's couches and engines and
Right.
cars in disrepair and oil all over. And
So would the city, if this property doesn't belong to this person or that person, would the city be opposed if I planted some beautiful rose bushes or cypress trees?
I'm not particularly sure where you're speaking.
Okay.
But the best thing to do was to come in and visit our planning department and let her know what your thoughts are, where it is, so they can pinpoint it on a map and probably give you some guidance whether you could do that or couldn't. There could be utilities in there. You don't want to be in there digging and find out you cut a fiber line or something like that. But I'm not quite sure exactly where you are, and I don't know that this is actually the venue to figure that out. But come in and visit.
Thank you for that.
You can get more information.
One more comment on the parking lot, the big one. Is there a chance that we can consider when that parking lot is built, because it's just a dirt lot, this is not a parking lot, it's a dirt lot, so not a parking lot, right? When building is beginning for the parking lot, as we as the city of Rock Springs expect it to be a beautiful parking lot, is there a chance that when that happens, we could think about maybe putting some trees a little bit far away from the building so people could have a walkway to where instead they could walk by the building because there's no line, right? So, but like the Tesla charging station at the mall, there's the little trees that are windbreakers, you know, they just stand up. Please consider that whoever's in charge, all of you are important people to me.
We will. We won't be to that part. As what I told you, the reason why it is dirt right now is because it can't even be paved for 5 years.
Okay.
So we're in that waiting period, and then we'll decide what we can and can't do.
Thank you so much.
I think I'm aware of what the request is, and it makes sense.
Do we by chance know what the budget for that parking lot is?
For when it's completed?
Yes.
At today's numbers?
Yes.
5 times what they were when we started.
For 5 times when the,
With
I agree with
inflation,
that.
I don't even remember.
Right,
Paul,
it's
you might, but
gonna be crazy, so.
We-
Okay, I'm just concerned where our money's going, what's happened to our town,
Yeah,
and
I-
what we can do to better it, you know?
I would think keep your
as-
eyes open
as a team.
because when we pass that time frame, we'll probably be bringing something before the council to improve that area for a parking lot. And so just keep your eyes open and look for the public process, because it will come once we cross that 5 years. And I think we're 2 years.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
2 years into it, maybe? So 2 to 3 years out, yeah.
Well, thank you, council, and thank you,
Your
Mayor.
Honors.
Thanks,
I
David.
appreciate you accommodating us today. I know you have a big agenda.
Your Honor,
You bet. Councilman?
Just to tell you, David, you're actually in Ward 4. Yep.
The online it says it's 3.5. So what's the
Yeah,
Ward 3?
that's the precinct. Not to confuse it, which is all gonna change in a little while anyway when we start talking redistricting.
Oh, for good God.
Ward boundaries, so.
On the ordinance itself, the statement that they gave me, it says that the city can give me a permit where it's zoned for. Is there specific areas zoned for chickens in Rock Springs?
No,
That's what the ordinance says.
county, you mean?
It says, no, it says city, issued by the city.
I would say Albertsons, maybe. Smith's, there's probably a section for chickens, but I don't know
It
of
says they
any-
could issue me a permit if it's zoned for area use. That is how the ordinance reads out. It says you can't have those unless you have a specific permit. So I
would have to research that, Mackenzie, and see, but I'm not
Mayor,
aware of that. But
I'm
that'll
not-
be part of what we do look
Okay.
into then.
I'm
Okay,
not
we're
aware
gonna-
of any zones in the city that allow them right now.
Okay, we're gonna close it out on the chickens. We got some homework to do. Is there anybody wishing to address the city council on any issue whatsoever? Going once? Okay, I'm gonna close the petition section of our agenda. We're gonna move on to the officers and staff reports. Councilors, we have, item number 1, the health insurance fund recap for February of 2022, and 2, the financial report summary for February 2022. Councilors, what's your pleasure?
So moved.
We do have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's going to move us on to the council committee and board reports. Councilors, we have item number 1, the Joint Powers Combined Communications Board meeting minutes of January 24th, 2022. And 2, Rock Springs Historical Museum Board meeting minutes of February 9th, 2022. And I would ask, are there any other board reports due or wishing to be included? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the council committee and board reports and place on file.
So moved, Your Honor.
We do have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second has been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, councilors, it's going to move us on to correspondence. You see we have one letter from correspondence. Any questions, please speak up. If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the correspondence and place on file.
So moved, Your Honor.
We do have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's going to move us on to the bills and claims. Councilors, item number 1 is the bills and claims for March 15th, 2022. What's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Demus.
I make a motion to approve the bills and claims for March 15th, 2022.
We do have a motion to approve the bills and claims for March 15th, 2022. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Let the record show. Item number 2, salaries for March 7th, 2022. Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Demus.
I make a motion to approve the salaries for March 7th, 2022.
We do have a motion to approve the salaries for March 7th, 2022. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, councilors, moving on to new business items. New business item number 1 is a request from the Finance Department for permission to fill a vacant part-time accounting technician 1/2 position. What's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Demus?
I make a motion to approve this request.
We do have a motion to honor this request. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And item number 2 is a request from the Engineering Operations and Public Services Department for permission to fill a vacant lab technician position at the Water Reclamation Facility. Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Robinson.
I make a motion to approve this request.
We do have a motion to approve this request. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on to item 3 is a request from Lin Pie Incorporated, doing business as Bombers Sports Bar, for 5 liquor catering permits for the Jenkins Music Pool Tournament on April 6th through the 10th, 2022, from 8 a.m. to midnight each day at the Sweetwater Events Complex. Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Batolo.
move to approve this request.
We do have a motion to honor this request. Do we have a second?
Second.
We do have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Let the record show. Moving on to resolutions, councilors. Item number 1 under resolutions, we have Resolution 2022-24.
A resolution accepting and approving a long-term lease agreement between Mike and Carmen Barbeau, husband and wife, of 836 Connecticut Avenue, Rock Springs, Wyoming, and authorizing Timothy A. Como as mayor of the city of Rock Springs and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk of the city of Rock Springs to execute said agreement on behalf of the city of Rock Springs.
Councilors, I'm a bit confused about this lease agreement, and we've had it for numerous years. And it's a little sliver of property behind the Broadway Theater where we load into the doors.
Right.
And it's not even the whole road, it's actually the way the property, this Barbeau parcel comes in into a little tiny triangle, so it's literally, I don't know, 10 feet maybe that we cross. I went and took a look at maybe just not approving this and then traveling down the bike path area by the Broadway Burger, but that's not gonna happen because there's bollards in place and there's a shed, and if we have people coming into the theater, then it wouldn't be so available to unload. I just am confused how we ended up from an increase from what I understand, around 750 maybe to 8. We basically received an invoice, but there was really no negotiating. It was, here's our bill kind of thing. So I guess it's something that we can't do without, yet we have very little contact with the landowner. From what I understand, we just had an invoice show up. And the lease agreement, I guess, from what I understand, is up, but they just increased it to 840 and said, there you go. And if you have map server up, you can take a look at, well, there you see. It's just that piece right there. We're crossing, measure that. What is that? Along the driveway there, maybe 6 feet? I don't know.
7? Yeah.
7 feet. We're crossing a little triangle.
And what are we using it for? I mean, what?
It loads into the theater. When bands show up, they drive into a little driveway back there that's ours, but this guy's property is a triangle, and when it gets to that area behind the theater, it's now at the narrowest point of the triangle, and we're crossing the little tip of the triangle to get into our driveway.
What?
So, I don't even know how this was negotiated or why, but,
Your Honor, would they be willing to sell to us, you think? Probably be worth buying.
this occurred after, when I was here, I was in the middle of purchasing the Broadway 30 and looking for the grant to renew the Broadway Theater, then I left and the theater was built, and maybe, Paul, do you know the history of that? Was it negotiated to utilize that lease? Do we know?
Your Honor, I didn't have any involvement in that. I believe that was negotiated by the URA.
Councilors, I'd recommend a table of this resolution until we can get some further research. To me, it's just gonna always go on. Maybe we can look at purchasing that little tiny little piece. It just seems to be ridiculous to pay $840 even a year to cross maybe a total rotation of one tire to get across a piece of ground. I'd recommend a table if the council would see so fit for some further research.
Your Honor,
Councilman West.
move to table resolution 2022-24.
Councilors, we do have a motion to table resolution 2022-24. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Councillor Batolo,
Yes.
Savage.
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Hickerson.
Yes.
Zadi.
Yes.
Demus.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Halter.
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes, and we'll get together with staff and talk about a plan for maybe making contact with this owner and see if we can make more sense of it. That brings us to item number 2, resolution 2022-25.
A resolution accepting and approving a lease between the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, the Rock Springs Urban Renewal Agency, and McCurtain Rentals, and directing Timothy A. Como as mayor of the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, Chad Banks as manager of the City of Rock Springs Urban Renewal Agency, and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk of said city to execute said lease on behalf of said city.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Demus?
I make a motion to approve resolution 2022-25.
Councilors, we do have a motion to approve resolution 2022-25. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Councillor Savage.
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Hickerson.
Yes.
Zadi.
Yes.
Demus.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Halter.
Yes.
Batolo.
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. Item number 3, resolution 2022-26.
A resolution accepting and approving a memorandum of understanding between the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, Sweetwater County, Wyoming, and authorizing Timothy A. Como as mayor and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk to execute said memorandum of understanding on behalf of the City of Rock Springs.
Utilization of the grassy knoll. What's your pleasure?
Corner.
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Demus?
I make a motion to approve resolution 2022-26.
We do have a motion to approve resolution 2022-26. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second has been called. Roll call.
Councillor West.
Yes.
Hickerson.
Yes.
Zadi.
Yes.
Demus.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Halter.
Yes.
Batolo.
Yes.
Savage.
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. Item number 4, resolution 2022-27.
A resolution accepting and approving a contract between the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and DiBernardi Construction Company, Inc. in the amount of $812,700 and authorizing Timothy A. Como as mayor and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk to execute said contract on behalf of the City of Rock Springs.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Hickerson?
I move to approve resolution 2022-27.
We do have a motion to approve 2022-27. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Councillor Hickerson.
Yes.
Zadi.
Abstain.
Demus.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Halter.
Yes.
Batolo.
Yes.
Savage.
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. Item number 5, resolution 2022-28.
A resolution accepting and approving a revised job description for the position of Lifeguard 1 at pay grade 21 for the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Savage?
I move to approve resolution 2022-28.
We do have a motion to approve resolution 2022-28. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Councillor Zadi.
Yes.
Demus.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Halter.
Yes.
Batolo.
Yes.
Savage.
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Hickerson.
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. Item number 6, resolution 2022-29.
A resolution accepting and approving a revised job description for the position of Lifeguard 2 at pay grade 22 for the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Savage?
I move to approve resolution 2022-29.
We do have a motion to approve resolution 2022-29. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Councillor Demus.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Halter.
Yes.
Batolo,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Hickerson,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. Item number 7, resolution 2022-30.
A resolution accepting and approving a revised job description for the position of Lifeguard 3 at pay grade 23 for the city of Rock Springs, Wyoming.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Savage.
I move to approve Resolution 2022-30.
We do have a motion to approve resolution 2022-30. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconds called. Roll call.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Batolo,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Hickerson,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
Demus,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes, and just a shout out to our staff that spent a lot of time putting together these descriptions and brought to our attention something that we've known for several years. Mr. Seaverud, Lansing, Robin, the whole group, this was something that needed to be done. And this council supports that in a time when we were losing lifeguards to mundane jobs elsewhere because we just weren't paying, competitive salaries. I think this is a good move, and I appreciate the work you've done on this.
Your Honor.
Councilman Savage?
What is it, 2 months? There was lifeguards saved 5 people at the Civic Center? What are you pointing at?
You must. You're all about recreational. Jaunt down to the microphone.
Keep it brief, though.
I practically live at 410 N Street. We've been tracking and keeping video of saves inside our building, however minor, for quite a long time. And they're almost always minor because they caught quickly. And we just started up a little reward incentive program. It doesn't give them anything more than another lifeguard shirt, essentially. But yes, in the last 5 months through the busy days at Wibbit and little things that happen a lot of the times at swimming lessons, just kind of incentivizing the efforts for a lifeguard, paying very close attention. So, but yeah, that just in the last 5 months, I can't speak for the rec center, but if we go back 3, 4, 5 years, it's well over a dozen or more. At the outdoor pools, there's probably a save or 2 per day at each pool.
Well, if you remember, it wasn't many years ago, the issue in Green River that took place with, that's still on all of our minds, and it just shows you the responsibility that those individuals have to make sure that we keep our pools safe.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for voting.
Thank you, JJ. Councilors, moving on, item 8, resolution 2022-31.
A resolution authorizing and directing Timothy A. Como as mayor of the city of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk of the city of Rock Springs, Wyoming, to accept and approve a budget revision to the budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Demus.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-31.
We do have a motion to approve resolution 2022-31. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Councilor Halter,
Yes.
Batolo,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Hickerson,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
Demus,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. Councilors, and with all that and all the discussion and homework that we have yet to do, and no further business to come before this governing
Thank
body,
you
this
for
meeting is adjourned.